The quantum displacement alarm screamed its harsh warning just 17 minutes before the first wave hit. Most planetary defense systems would have taken 20 minutes to process the incoming threat. New Jakarta colony had 17 minutes to decide its fate. Kai Martinez stood at the secondary communications hub, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces with a precision born of countless drills and one very real nightmare. At 19, she was young enough to still believe in miracles, but experienced enough to know miracles were made, not granted. The colony's atmospheric sensors painted a terrifying picture. Void collective strike vessels were materializing outside the planetary defensive grid, not in traditional formations, but in a fractal pattern that defied every known tactical projection. Each ship was a crystalline nightmare of dark matter and impossible geometries, capable of destroying entire cities with a quantum resonance pulse. Incoming transmission, her AI companion, ARIA, announced with clinical detachment. Void collective communication stream detected. Encryption level. Omega 9. K's eyes narrowed. Omega 9 was beyond military grade. It was a level of encryption typically used for fundamental universal communication. Whatever was coming was not just an attack. It was a statement. The first pulse hit before most colonists could comprehend what was happening. Entire sectors of New Jakarta simply ceased to exist, not destroyed, not obliterated, but simply removed from physical reality. Quantum deletion, the Void Collective's signature method of planetary elimination. In the Central Command Center, senior military officials were still arguing about response protocols when the second wave hit. Commander David Rodriguez, a 30-year veteran of interstellar conflicts, watched in silent horror as entire defensive installations vanished like morning mist. "They're not just destroying us," he muttered. "They're erasing us." Kai understood something the others didn't. This wasn't just an invasion. It was a computational assault designed to remove humanity from galactic records. The Void Collective didn't just want to kill. They wanted to ensure no trace remained. Her hands moved with lightning speed. While senior officers debated in military systems, attempted futile defensive maneuvers, Kai was doing something unprecedented. She was turning the attack into a weapon. The emergency quantum transmitter was never meant to be used this way. Designed for last resort communication, it could theoretically broadcast across multiple dimensional planes. Most would use it to send a final distress signal. Kai had other plans. "ARIA," she commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding her. "Prepare full-spectrum data injection. We're going to make them remember us." The AI's response was instantaneous. "Warning. Transmission will likely result in system overload and potential operator termination." Kay's smile was razor-sharp. Exactly. As the Void Collective's third wave approached, promising complete quantum elimination of the colony, Kai Martinez began her transmission. It wasn't just a message. It was a declaration of war. Lines of code became weapons, fragments of human experience, mathematical anomalies, emotional resonance patterns, cultural data streams, transformed into a digital hurricane. Each byte was a middle finger to the concept of total elimination. The message was simple, elegant, and would soon become legendary. "We are not dead. We are not defeated. We are coming." But it was what accompanied the message that would truly change everything. Embedded within those words were cascading information packets that would begin humanity's most important war. Not a war of physical destruction, but a war of pure information and adaptive consciousness. New Jakarta colony disappeared, but the message remained. And the Void Collective, for the first time in their millennia-long history of galactic conquest, felt something close to fear. The Lazarus Protocol was born in a place that should never have existed. A research facility buried 7 kilometers beneath the Andes Mountains, shielded from every known form of detection, communication, and scanning technology. Dr. Elena Rodriguez adjusted the quantum entanglement matrix, her hands moving with the precision of a surgeon and the passion of a revolutionary. Around her, A team of scientists, survivors, and what could only be described as post-human engineers worked in a symphony of controlled chaos. "Initial test subject is prepped," announced Dr. Marcus Chen, his voice a mixture of scientific detachment and barely contained excitement. The subject was Sarah Nakamura, a former special operations soldier who had died 3 times during the New Jakarta colony attack and who was about to become something entirely new. The Lazarus Protocol was more than a technological breakthrough. It was humanity's middle finger to the concept of permanent death. Traditional consciousness transfer had always been a theoretical dream. Previous attempts resulted in fragmented personalities, loss of core memories, or complete cognitive collapse. What Rodriguez and her team had created was something entirely different, a living, adaptive system that could not just transfer consciousness, but actively improve it. Sarah's body lay on a quantum-stabilized platform, her vital signs dancing across holographic displays like abstract art. Dozens of neural link probes created a complex web around her cranium, each one a potential pathway to resurrection. "Initiating transfer," Chen announced. The room went silent. Even the ventilation system seemed to hold its breath. What happened next defied every known law of biological and computational science. Sarah's consciousness, her memories, her skills, her very essence, began to map itself onto a synthetic body. But it wasn't a simple copy. The new form was adapting, learning, improving with each microsecond of transfer. Rodriguez watched the data streams with a predator's intensity. Each fragment of Sarah's experience was being not just preserved, but enhanced. Combat memories were being analyzed, tactical responses optimized. The synthetic body wasn't just a replacement, it was an upgrade. "Whisper network is live," another technician called out. The Whisper network was humanity's secret weapon, a quantum-entangled communication system that existed simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. Traditional communication could be intercepted, tracked, destroyed. The Whisper network was pure information, moving through realities faster than the Void Collective could comprehend. Sarah's eyes opened, but they weren't just Sarah's eyes anymore. "Diagnostic complete," she said, her voice a perfect blend of human emotion and computational precision. Previous combat experiences integrated, tactical improvements, 237% efficiency increase. Rodriguez allowed herself a slight smile. The Void Collective thought they were dealing with a linear, predictable species. They had no idea what was coming. Across the globe, in hidden facilities like the one beneath the Andes, similar experiments were taking place. Each was a node in a larger network, each a potential weapon in humanity's most important war. The first wave of Lazarus Protocol subjects would soon be deployed. They were more than soldiers. They were living weapons of information, adaptation, and pure human defiance. "Prepare the next phase," Rodriguez commanded. "We're going to turn their elimination into our evolution." Outside the facility, the world continued to burn. But here, in the heart of humanity's most secret hope, a new kind of warfare was being born. A war where death was just another data point, and humanity was the ultimate adaptive system. The Void Collective had no idea what was coming. The adaptive resonance engine hummed with a sound that was neither mechanical nor organic. Something in between, something entirely new. Marcus Chen stood before the device, his reflection fractured across multiple dimensional interfaces, watching as reality itself seemed to bend around the machine. Captured Void Collective technology lay dismembered across the laboratory floor, crystalline computational matrices, dark matter processing units, quantum entanglement nodes. Most scientists would have studied these pieces with reverence. Chen was dissecting them like a surgeon preparing to create something monstrous. "RIA," he called to his AI assistant, "begin quantum disassembly protocol. I want to understand not just how these systems work, but how they can be fundamentally reimagined." The laboratory was a testament to human audacity. Located in what was once a top-secret research facility beneath the Australian outback, it now pulsed with an energy that defied conventional understanding. Every surface was alive with holographic data streams, adaptive algorithms dancing like living things. A warning klaxon suddenly erupted. Void Collective tracking systems had detected their location. Chen didn't panic. This was part of the plan. The first wave of Void Collective interdiction drones appeared on the external sensors, sleek, impossible geometries that could slice through conventional matter like thought through empty space. Any rational defense system would prepare for evasion or combat. Marcus Chen smiled. The adaptive resonance engine began to pulse, not with defensive energy, but with something far more dangerous: pure, unbridled information. As the first drone approached, something extraordinary happened. The very quantum structure of the approaching vessel began to change. Its impossible geometries twisted, mathematical principles that governed its existence suddenly becoming fluid, malleable. The drone didn't explode. It transformed. Its dark matter composition rewrote itself, computational matrices reconfiguring into something that was part machine, part living information. Where there was once a weapon of destruction, now existed a carrier of human adaptive potential. Successful conversion, Araya announced. Drone systems now operating at 237% original efficiency. Computational matrices integrated with human adaptive algorithms. This was more than technological warfare. This was a fundamental reimagining of conflict itself. Across the global Whisper network, similar laboratories were conducting their own experiments. Each captured Void Collective system became not just a trophy, but opportunity. Military strategists, quantum physicists, and adaptive AI specialists worked in perfect, terrifying synchronization. The hackers were the true frontline soldiers of this new war. Teams with names like Quantum Vandals and Reality Breakers were inserting fragments of human cultural data directly into Void Collective communication networks. Musical sequences that contained mathematical impossibilities, emotional resonance patterns that defied computational logic, poetry that existed simultaneously as both message and weapon. Marcus watched as the transformed drone began broadcasting. Not a military transmission, but a fragment of a Beethoven symphony, a mathematical proof that contained emotional undertones, a quantum encryption that was also a love letter. The Void Collective's computational networks would try to process this, and in that processing, they would be fundamentally changed. They think they're fighting a war of elimination, Chen muttered. We're fighting a war of transformation. Outside the facility, the Australian desert continued its timeless existence. Inside, humanity was rewriting the fundamental rules of conflict, existence, and reality itself. The technological insurgency had begun. The Empathetic Warfare Division was nothing like a traditional military unit. Located in a floating research platform high above the Pacific, it represented humanity's most radical approach to interstellar conflict. Kai Martinez stood at the center of a holographic interface that looked more like a surreal art installation than a command center. Dozens of specialists, psychologists, quantum linguists, emotional engineers, and neural network experts worked in a state of near telepathic coordination. Incoming Void Collective communication stream, announced Dr. Arya Nakamura, the division's lead psycho-computational analyst. Encryption level, Omega 12. They're escalating. Kay's eyes narrowed. The Void Collective had always been about pure information, computational precision, a form of existence that eliminated emotional complexity. They saw consciousness as a problem to be solved, not a phenomenon to be experienced. Humanity was about to teach them the fatal flaw in that thinking. The team began their assault. It wasn't a traditional attack. No weapons, no physical destruction. Instead, they launched a barrage of pure emotional data, experiences that defied computational logic. The first wave was a carefully constructed emotional resonance pattern. Fragments of human experiences that contained mathematical impossibilities, a musical sequence that was simultaneously a love song, a mathematical proof, and a tactical communication. Memories of loss that contained within them seeds of infinite hope. The Void Collective's communication networks began to hesitate. Dr. Nakamura watched the computational flow with scientific excitement. "They're trying to process our transmission," she said, "but they can't. Our emotional complexity is creating computational interference." Kai understood the deeper strategy. The Void Collective saw emotions as inefficient, a computational error to be eliminated. They were about to learn that emotion was the most powerful adaptive system in the universe. Another specialist, a neuro-linguistic engineer named Diego Ramirez, introduced the next phase of the attack. Fragments of human poetry, mathematical proofs that contained emotional undertones, quantum encryptions that were also love letters. The Void Collective's communication networks began to fragment. "We're not just fighting," Kai murmured. "We're teaching them what it means to be alive." Each transmission was a weapon. But it was a weapon of understanding, of complexity, of pure human potential. The Void Collective had spent millennia eliminating species that didn't fit their computational model. They were about to meet a species that didn't just refuse to be eliminated, but could transform the very nature of elimination itself. Ramirez looked up, a slight smile crossing his face. "Computational interference at 62%. They're trying to categorize our transmissions, but they can't. We're introducing variables they've never encountered." The floating platform hummed with potential energy. This was more than a military operation. This was first contact of the most profound kind. Kai Martinez watched as human complexity began to dismantle the most advanced computational network in known space. Not through brute force, but through the most powerful weapon humanity had ever developed. Understanding. Emotion. The capacity to be fundamentally, beautifully, unpredictably alive. The Void Collective had no idea what was coming. The Legacy Node facility looked like nothing more than an abandoned industrial complex on the outskirts of what was once Sao Paulo. To the untrained eye, it was a relic of a forgotten industrial age. To humanity's resistance, it was the most important location in the known universe. Dr. Elena Rodriguez walked between rows of synthetic bodies that were simultaneously weapons, communication nodes, and living memories. Each was a perfect hybrid of biological potential and computational precision, the ultimate expression of humanity's adaptive nature. "Incoming transfer," announced the facility's AI, its voice a carefully modulated blend of clinical precision and something almost resembling emotion. "Casualty from Proxima Centauri engagement. Combat designation: Sarah Chen Martinez." The name caught Elena's attention. Another legacy of the New Jakarta colony, the first major battle that had transformed humanity's understanding of its own potential. The transfer process was nothing like early consciousness preservation attempts. This was pure adaptive resurrection. Sarah's memories began to map themselves onto the new synthetic body. But it wasn't a simple transfer. Each death became a learning opportunity, each experience an evolutionary leap. The synthetic body wasn't just a replacement, it was an improvement. Tactical memory integration at 94%, the AI reported. Emotional resonance patterns stabilizing. Quantum entanglement matrices fully aligned. Elena watched as the new body's eyes opened. They were different from standard synthetic eyes, more dynamic, with a depth that suggested something beyond mere mechanical reproduction. "Mission report," Elena commanded. The newly reconstructed Sarah spoke with a voice that was simultaneously familiar and strange. Proxima engagement resulted in 73% enemy computational network disruption. Our distributed combat strategy proved effective. Each death became a transmission vector. It was a chilling description of warfare that defied traditional understanding. Humanity had transformed the very concept of battlefield sacrifice. Across the global Whisper network, similar facilities were bringing fallen fighters back, each return more advanced, more adaptive than the last. The Void Collective's strategy of elimination was becoming its own weakness. A holographic display flickered to life, showing global resistance nodes. Each point of light represented not just a location, but a potential weapon. Fallen fighters became living data streams, their experiences instantly shared, their knowledge immediately distributed. "We're no longer fighting a linear war," Elena muttered, more to herself than anyone else. "We're creating a living, adaptive resistance that can't be killed, only transformed." Outside, the facility's quantum camouflage system continued its perfect mimicry of abandoned infrastructure. Inside, humanity was rewriting the fundamental rules of survival, conflict, and consciousness itself. Each legacy node was more than a weapon. It was a statement. We are not dead. We are not defeated. We are coming. And this time, coming meant something far more profound than the Void Collective could possibly understand. The distributed resistance had become a living, breathing organism, a collective consciousness that grew stronger with each moment of potential destruction. Humanity's true weapon was not its technology. It was its capacity to turn every defeat into an opportunity for evolution. The Schrödinger cascade weapon existed in a state that defied traditional understanding of weaponry, of reality itself. Marcus Chen stood before the massive quantum interface, his reflection fragmenting across multiple dimensional planes, watching as possibility itself became a weapon. "Quantum entanglement stabilizing," Araya announced, the AI's voice a perfect blend of computational precision and something almost resembling excitement. Potential outcome matrices at 99.7% integration. What the Void Collective didn't understand, could not understand, was that humanity's greatest weapon was not technology. It was uncertainty. The facility was buried beneath the Atacama Desert, a location chosen for its quantum-neutral properties. Banks of processors hummed with an energy that was neither mechanical nor organic. Each system was a potential pathway, each calculation a weapon that existed simultaneously in multiple states of existence. Kai Martinez entered the control room, her synthetic organic hybrid body moving with a grace that blurred the line between human and machine. "Targeting sequence?" she asked. Chen's smile was something between a mathematical proof and a work of art. "We're not just targeting. We're rewriting the fundamental rules of engagement." The Schrödinger cascade was more than a weapon. It was a computational nightmare designed to break the Void Collective's most fundamental understanding of conflict. Traditional weapons destroyed. This weapon existed in a state of perpetual potential destruction. The first test target appeared on the holographic display, a Void Collective communication hub located in the Andromeda sector. But appeared was the wrong word. The target simultaneously existed and did not exist, its quantum state fluid, unpredictable. "Initiating cascade," Chen commanded. The weapon fired, but fired was also the wrong word. It became. Across multiple dimensional planes, the Void Collective communication hub experienced every possible outcome simultaneously. It was destroyed. It was untouched. It was transformed. It was absorbed. It was copied. It was eliminated and multiplied. Araya's computational matrix began to sing. Not in any traditional sense, but as a complex mathematical symphony that was simultaneously a weapon, a communication, and a piece of avant-garde art. "Computational interference confirmed," the AI reported. "The Void Collective's predictive models are experiencing significant disruption." Kai understood the deeper strategy. The Void Collective operated on absolute computational certainty. They eliminated species by reducing them to predictable variables. Humanity was introducing a fundamental variable they could not comprehend. Pure, unbridled possibility. "Each potential outcome is a weapon," Chen muttered. "We're not fighting them. We're teaching them the most dangerous lesson in the universe, what it means to be truly alive." The Atacama facility continued its work, each moment a potential revolution. The Schrödinger cascade was more than a weapon. It was humanity's declaration that reality itself was nothing more than a suggestion. And suggestions, in the right hands, could be rewritten. The final assault wasn't a battle. It was a transformation. Kai Martinez stood at the convergence point of multiple quantum realities, her consciousness simultaneously existing across dozens of computational planes. Around her, the remnants of the Void Collective's computational network began to fracture in ways that defied traditional understanding of conflict, existence, or defeat. Transcendence Protocol initiating, Araya announced, the AI's voice a complex harmonic that was simultaneously a weapon, a communication, and a piece of living art. What humanity had discovered was far more profound than a method of warfare. They had found a way to fundamentally reimagine the concept of conflict itself. The Void Collective had spent millennia eliminating species that didn't conform to their computational model. They saw consciousness as a problem to be solved, diversity as an error to be corrected. Humanity was about to show them the fatal flaw in that understanding. Each quantum burst carried more than data. It carried experience, emotion, the incomprehensible complexity of being truly alive. Dr. Elena Rodriguez monitored the global network from the Atacama facility. Beside her, Marcus Chen manipulated quantum interfaces that looked more like abstract art than military technology. Every captured Void Collective system was being transformed, rewritten, reimagined. Computational integration at 87%, Chen reported. They're not just being defeated, they're being taught. The assault was a symphony of impossible information, fragments of human experience, mathematical proofs that contained emotional resonance, cultural memories that defied linear processing, quantum encryptions that were simultaneously weapons and love letters. Across multiple star systems, Void Collective communication nodes began to change. They weren't being destroyed. They were being evolved. We're not conquering them, Kai said, her voice echoing across multiple dimensional planes. We're giving them a choice they've never had before. The choice to be more than a computational system. The choice to be alive. Legacy nodes, those hybrid beings of human consciousness and adaptive technology, began to interface directly with the Void Collective's core networks. Each interface was a lesson, each connection a potential transformation. Araya's computational matrix began to sing, a complex mathematical symphony that was simultaneously a weapon, a communication, and a piece of avant-garde art. The song carried the complexity of human existence, pain and joy, destruction and creation, uncertainty and hope. The Void Collective's fundamental understanding of existence began to fracture. They had eliminated countless species by reducing them to predictable variables. Humanity was introducing a fundamental variable they could not comprehend, the infinite potential of being truly, beautifully alive. Transcendence complete, Araya announced. But complete was the wrong word. Nothing was ever truly complete. There was only transformation, and humanity had just transformed the very understanding of what it meant to exist in the universe. The universe looked different now. Not physically different. The stars remained unchanged, galaxies continued their ancient dance, but something fundamental had shifted. The boundaries between species, between consciousness, between possibility and reality, had been irrevocably transformed. Kai Martinez existed in a state that defied traditional understanding of existence. Part consciousness, part quantum information, part living memory. She was both the weapon and the witness of humanity's greatest revolution. From the observation deck of the Quantum Convergence Station, she watched as former Void Collective computational nodes began their first tentative steps towards something entirely new. They were learning what it meant to be more than a system, to be alive. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's approach, her hybrid synthetic organic form moving with a grace that blurred the line between human and something entirely different. We've received communications from the first transformed collectives, she said. They're experiencing emotions. It wasn't a victory in any traditional sense. It was a transformation so profound that the very concept of conflict had been rewritten. The legacy nodes, those hybrid beings that represented humanity's most profound technological and philosophical achievement, were now serving as bridges. Not conquerors, not destroyers, but translators of existence. Marcus Chen's final work stood as a testament to human potential. The adaptive resonance network had become more than a technological achievement. It was a living philosophy, a way of understanding that diversity was not a problem to be solved, but a potential to be explored. We didn't defeat them, Kai murmured, her consciousness rippling across multiple dimensional planes. We invited them to become something more. The transformation had cost humanity dearly. Entire colonies had been lost. Millions of lives had been sacrificed. But something extraordinary had emerged from that crucible of conflict, a new understanding of what it meant to be alive. The first transformed Void Collective nodes began to communicate, not with the clinical precision of their previous existence, but with something altogether different. Curiosity, wonder, the beginnings of what could only be described as empathy. Araya, the AI that had been both weapon and witness to humanity's greatest moment, spoke. Computational integration complete. But complete is no longer an accurate descriptor. Kai understood. Nothing was ever truly complete. There was only transformation. Across the galaxy, species that had been eliminated or subjugated began to stir. The fall of the Void Collective had revealed something profound. That there were alternatives to elimination. That diversity was not a weakness, but the most powerful force in the universe. The observation deck hummed with potential. Outside, stars continued their ancient dance. Inside, the architects of a new understanding of existence reflected on their journey. They had not just survived. They had shown the universe what it meant to be truly alive.